Hello, everybody. Welcome back to RoguesCast for another episode. We did the one with E3 2018, and it was doing really well. So we decided to see if we could do some more and just kind of talk about certain topics that we wanted to talk about in gaming. So,
and this is something that we've mentioned in the past on the channel a couple of times. And the topic of today's discussion is going to be Sony crossplay.
Yes, crossplay on the PS4. So this is something I wanted to talk about. By the way, it's just myself and Jared today. Taylor is working on stuff today. And Wade is, well, his schedule is his schedule. It's Wade. We still haven't been able to get him in here for anything for podcast related stuff. So we will at some point. But yeah, Sony crossplay. I had some stuff I wanted to say about this because you and Taylor both know that I get really mouthy on Facebook comment sections.
Yeah, I've seen your monologues that rival Shakespearean literature that you've been posting on people.
I hate the fact that I do that. I really do. I have there's every single day I see something on Facebook, and I have to just what I'll end up doing is I'll start typing a monologue as a comment, and then I'll just stop myself and go, is it worth it? And then I'll just exit out. But sometimes there's just that topic that just gets so under my skin that I'm just like, no, I have to say something. And
I cannot let this lie.
and this was one of those things. For some reason, it's just silly. But I mean, this isn't really something that's silly. This is something that I actually kind of care about. But.
So for everybody at home, explain kind of the background of why we're talking about this.
So here's what happened. I think everybody, most people know, but just to make sure people who aren't up to speed realize, as you just said. But Sony has been very anti-crossplay in the past few years. And that's kind of come to be expected of them at this point. It really sucks, and I highly disagree with it. But it kind of ends there. Because it's just okay, it sucks that they're not doing it when everybody else is doing it, but eventually they'll probably change their ways because that's kind of the direction that gaming is going. That's fine. You know, that wasn't the thing that really got under my skin when it comes to this subject. The thing that got under my skin was some news that broke out when Fortnite came out for the Switch. Now, I am not a fan of Fortnite. I really don't care about Fortnite, and I don't care to ever even try it. If you enjoy Fortnite, that's fine. I'm just, it's not for me. But
it appeals to a particular niche.
Exactly. Well, it's not a niche at this point. It's one of the biggest games in the world right now. But,
yeah.
But
it feels like it's the kids that were on the older end of Minecraft were looking for something different that still had kind of a building mechanic.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of evolved from there.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of that. It's kind of that Minecraft-esque combined with multiplayer shooter kind of thing. But the thing that got under my skin was news that broke out. Fortnite came out for the Nintendo Switch, which that was a big deal. So now Fortnite is pretty much out for pretty much anything that you can think of.
If I remember, you can even play it on your phone.
You can play it on your phone, your tablet, anything. But the thing that got under my skin was when the game came out on the Switch, people were trying to log into their Fortnite Epic accounts on their Nintendo Switch. And they were shocked to see that, to get this message saying, you cannot log into your Fortnite account on this system to play Fortnite. Please create a new account. And every single person who got that error message saw that there was one thing in common with all the accounts that got that message. They were used on PlayStation 4. And Sony basically just came out and said, yep, we're locking your accounts to PS4. They're ours now.
So it's you would access your account and log into their server, but if you were playing it, if you created that account on a PlayStation 4, it was locked out from other consoles.
Not even just created. If you logged into your Fortnite account on your PS4 at any point in time,
it would just appropriate it.
It would just lock down, and that was it. And you got no notification for it. They gave you no warning about it. They just did it. It doesn't even matter if you made the account on PS4 or not. If you at any point logged into Fortnite with your Epic account on PS4, even once, it locks down.
That just seems almost, I don't want to say shady, but that's kind of the only term that seems to like go along with it. Because like if you created an account on the PlayStation 4 like version of Fortnite, and that was in the terms and agreement, then I would understand. At
the very least, if Sony's going to do that, they need to be they should have been upfront about it from the beginning. That's one of the biggest problems I have, is that they are not upfront about it. There was nothing that they did to inform their customers. Hey, look, if you decide to play Fortnite on this system, just so you know, you will not be able to play on another console. You can still play the game on PC and mobile, but just not a console other than PS4. And that was what got under my skin, because Sony doesn't freaking own Epic. Okay, they don't own Epic accounts. They don't. This is my account. I understand if it was like a PSN account, because Sony owns that.
Mm-hmm.
But a Fortnite account for a third-party game that's available basically everywhere, not just PlayStation, and Sony's trying to claim your account because you logged into it on PS4. No, that's crossing the line.
And
like,
this is the thing that I'm just thinking to myself is like, if the servers are owned by Epic, then I say Sony shouldn't do that. Right. If however the PlayStation 4 version of Fortnite is running on Sony servers, then that's where it starts to get into a lot bigger of a gray area.
Well, I think the way it works is that Fortnite does have its own servers that Epic owns, but in order to gain access to PlayStation Network so that people can log into on their PS4 to play the game, there has to be like some integration to where players have to go through Sony servers to get to. Here's the difference though, is that Fortnite is actually one of the very rare occasions on PS4 where you actually don't need to have PlayStation Plus to play online.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because the game has its own servers. It doesn't really utilize Sony servers too much, other than just, hey, you have to log into PSN to play.
Yeah, just for the account information.
Right, exactly, for the account information. But Fortnite has its own servers, and it's one of the few games on PS4 that you can actually play online without PlayStation Plus, which that's a good thing. I love games that offer free online like they do on PC, just saying. Yeah, I'm sorry, but that is just a really shady practice that Sony is putting into place there, where it's just like, hey, you want to play on PlayStation 4 Fortnite? Fuck you, you're going to be stuck here.
Well, this is it for me, is just like, what reason would they have to even, like, what would they gain out of adding crossplay?
So, well, before I get to that, I also wanted to address the reason why Sony is locking down Fortnite accounts like this is because money. Simple as that. Like, the reason why is because they don't like somebody buying something through the game on a PS4 and then using it on an Xbox or a Switch.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they are competitors, so...
Yeah, they are competitors, which you can make that argument, but then Nintendo and Xbox came out with a trailer that basically just made Sony look really bad. And the trailer was... It was a trailer for crossplay for Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And the trailer was done by Nintendo, but... Like when I saw the trailer, I thought, oh, is this like advertising crossplay for mobile and PC? That seemed like the obvious thing. But as soon as I booted up the commercial, I saw a person with an Xbox controller in their hand. I'm like, wait a minute, a Nintendo ad with an Xbox product in it?
Mm-hmm.
What the heck is this? And at the end, like, they actually show like both the Switch logo and the Xbox logo. It was actually a collaboration between Microsoft and Nintendo to advertise crossplay for Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, wow, they just made Sony look really bad.
and that's the kind of thing, is that, like, I know for this last console generation, I've mostly heard that PlayStation 4 has been kind of the dominant side. So
yeah.
Sony they have the leg up on everybody else.
Well, they basically already won this generation. Like, the generation is theirs. They took it.
And so it's just like, whenever you're the underdog, you have to try and find ways to either undermine the big guys or come out with something that'll completely, rise a step above. And like something like the Switch for Nintendo is something very out of the ordinary, but it did very well for them. Xbox is much more of a mono competitor in terms of their consoles, and so with them collaborating, that gives them, that extra promotion of it. It's almost like casting, shade at Sony.
Yeah, it's basically them taking advantage of a situation that their competitors getting flack for and making themselves look good by comparison. In fact, it's funny that you bring that up, because the entire reason why the PlayStation 4 won this generation is because Sony did the same thing. Because do you remember back at E3 2013 when Sony was just throwing all the shade at Microsoft?
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's because I think the what was it, the 360 and the PS3?
Well, because what happened was, do you remember when the Xbox One was first revealed and they were like introducing like all these DRM policies and they got a whole lot of flack for it?
Yeah.
So basically what Sony did, because Microsoft came out and they made themselves look really bad. So what Sony did was they just came up on the E3 stage and they just spent 2 minutes basically saying, hey, all that stuff that Microsoft's doing, we're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they released a video saying, this is how you share games on PS4. And it's just a dude handing the game to another dude.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks. It's like, yeah, that, like, a lot of people agree that video alone is what won Sony the generation.
Mm-hmm.
Because Microsoft came out, shot themselves in the foot, and Sony just took advantage of the situation.
And that seems to be a constantly recurring trend with the developer that ends up like kind of like taking the torch of the generation, is that for some reason they keep ending up in this cyclical like battle to where like, oh, I'm the leader, I'm going to start imposing all of these obstructive policies that kind of just force people into a certain little like niche of like playing on our system. And then everybody else is just like, oh, really? Is that what you're going to do? Okay. And then makes them look bad. And then somebody else now takes the lead. And it's happened for multiple generations.
Yeah. And it's like every single console manufacturer has done some kind of fuck up that made themselves look bad that another company took advantage of. Like even Nintendo, a company that I love, is guilty of it. So it's just... It's funny, like one of my favorite YouTubers, Review Tech USA, he actually touched on the whole topic of like Nintendo and Microsoft collaborating to make Sony look bad, and he brought up a great point. He said it's amazing that whenever a company is on top of their game, they're the dominant force of the generation, they just start to lose themselves and they start to become very anti-consumer, whereas the ones that are behind are starting to become very pro-consumer.
And to be perfectly honest, they kind of have to, because they need to get more numbers and sales and more customers.
Because last generation, Microsoft was the leader. The PS3 ended up overtaking the 360 in sales in the very end, but it took like 7 years for the PlayStation to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
During that entire time, the Xbox 360 was the leader. And I think what happened in 2013 is that Microsoft just got cocky and they said, hey, we're going to do all these things that we want to do, and you're just going to take it because we're Xbox. We're the leader right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Sony just came out and said, yeah, we're not doing that.
And that may or may not have been their opinions, but those decisions were still made that way.
Yeah, but
to instill those policies.
But then again, at that time, Microsoft was being head by Don Matrick, and nobody really likes that guy. Like Don Matrick, like just to give you like an idea of like where his stance was with the Xbox 360, like he was the one who was pushing like any game that has any online features at all needs to require Xbox Live Gold. Like he was pushing like. Because like Square Enix was trying to get Final Fantasy XIV to the Xbox 360, the MMO game, and Microsoft basically told them, if you want that game on our system, it has to require Xbox Live Gold, even though it's already a subscription-based game that you already pay a subscription model.
You'd be having to pay 2 subscriptions.
Yeah, you have to pay 2 subscriptions to play it on the 360. I think Square Enix at that point just like, yeah, we're not doing that. So, but we're going a little off the rails, going back. Because you asked a question earlier that we haven't touched on yet, which was
why should Sony, be more pro-consumer and hop on the crossplay train?
And I kind of see where you're coming from there, because how would they benefit from a business standpoint?
Mm-hmm. Because then it's just opening more options to the consumer, but it also gives their competition an edge as well.
Well, I definitely see where you're coming from there, but I will also counter by saying this. if now that it's known that Fortnite accounts are being locked on the PS4, let's say I wanted to try. Let's say I got interested in playing Fortnite at some point and I wanted to try it out. Now that I know what Sony does with Fortnite accounts, why on earth would I want to play it on PlayStation?
Well, if that's the only console you have, then it doesn't really bother you anyway.
But I also own a Switch and I also own a PC.
Yeah, and then at that point, you would either have to have 2 accounts that you would play on, or not play it on the PS4.
Exactly.
But again, that affects the consumer. That doesn't affect Sony.
But the reason why that does affect Sony, though, in my opinion anyway, is that basically what you're doing is telling people, hey, here's a reason why you shouldn't play on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm. You're alienating a portion of your fan base.
Exactly. It's like, let's see, I can play Fortnite on PlayStation 4 and my account will be locked to it, and the only other people I can play with are people on PC and mobile, whereas I can play on PC, Switch, or Xbox, and I can play with everybody else, and I'm not locked to their systems.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would I go and play the game on PlayStation and buy the stuff in the game through PlayStation?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, Sony is kind of just shooting themselves in the foot and saying, wow, why are we suddenly seeing fewer people coming into our system to play Fortnite? That's weird. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I kind of...
It was a bad PR move, and I totally get it. But it's just, in terms of crossplay, like, Fortnite is kind of the spark for this conversation, but if they start now, they would have to start offering crossplay on everything.
Right, and we're already kind of heading in that direction, but you may actually be surprised what some developers have said about crossplay. Like, enabling crossplay is literally like flipping a switch. Like, actually, it's interesting. Last year, Epic accidentally enabled crossplay for the PS4. There were PS4 players that were playing with Xbox and PC and mobile users all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
They had to turn it off because Sony doesn't want it.
Yep.
And, Epic basically came out and said, yeah, it's literally like just flipping a switch. Like, if Sony decided to allow it, we could do it like that.
Yep.
Like, it will not take any effort to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
All we need is the green light from Sony.
The way that servers and the internet are all, like, interconnected, like, incorporating that technology has existed for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just companies haven't wanted to do that because, again, it gives more choices to the consumer to potentially go to their competition.
Right, and that's also where I was headed, is going to their competition, which brings me to the end of the 8th generation, which the PS4 and the Xbox One are still going to be relevant for some time, but we already know that the next PlayStation and Xbox are in development.
Yeah. We're probably going to stick with the Switch for a while, but I have a feeling in about 2-3 more years we may hear something from Nintendo. To be perfectly honest, I would be happy with a Switch 2.0 that just had like 1080p or even potentially 4K graphics, but was still mobile.
Yeah, I could see Nintendo just kind of like consistently coming out with upgraded versions of the Switch every couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I would be fine with that. But and it's not like the Switch is super expensive. It's $300. I mean, purchasing a new Switch every 2 years is easier than purchasing a new like $1,000 smartphone every 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm more open to that than the other thing. But but the reason why I'm going into that is that it's estimated that the new consoles will probably be released in 2020, 2 years from now.
Makes sense.
If Sony is the only one who is not offering crossplay, then what's going to stop consumers from looking at the other guys and saying, hey, they do offer crossplay. Why wouldn't I go there?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And so the biggest selling point that they would potentially have at that junction would be exclusive titles.
Well, that's definitely what Sony's like driving factor is. Their exclusives are their big driving factor, which nobody's trying to tell Sony that they need to bring like God of War to the Switch or anything like that. That's not at all what people are saying. They can have their exclusive content, that's fine. But the thing that people want is just, I want to be able to play with my friend who is on Xbox from my PS4. So I don't want platforms to be a wall between us being able to play together.
Yeah, and that's the big thing especially for me as a video game player, is that like I want to be able to choose my system of choice, but still not be like removed from all of the friends that I want to play games with. And I have a ton of games that are just single player experiences that I want to play on my own, or I'm playing a game on Steam and I go into offline mode or something just because I just want to have a single experience for myself.
Yeah.
This topic, crossplay, is purely more a multiplayer related issue.
Exactly. And I'm with you on that. Like I most of the games I play are single player. I'm mainly a single player gamer. That's the only game I really get like super into on multiplayer is Monster Hunter. Mm-hmm. Like that's the only franchise that I get like super involved in when it comes to multiplayer.
Even that game is just like, if I got that on PC and you had it on Sony, I don't think we would be able, or the PlayStation. We
wouldn't.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able.
To play together. And Capcom has stated like they have no plans to bring crossplay to Monster Hunter World, but the reason why is because of Sony. Like even Bethesda has said it. Todd Howard himself came out and said, we want to incorporate crossplay into Fallout 76, but we can't. Sony's not letting us.
And that's the thing, is that like if the consumers want it and the developers want it, because game developers would greatly benefit from crossplay, because then it doesn't matter what system that their game releases on or you buy it for, they still get their cut. Yep. And it's a lot easier for them to roll out things blanket across their entire fan base.
And plus they get more people playing the game because they don't have to worry about what platform they're on. They can play with their friends regardless. So the gamers want it, the developers and the publishers want it. Everybody wants it. In every video game console manufacturer is on board. The only person who is against it is Sony.
And as long as they have that flag planted in the ground, it ruins it for everybody.
Yep. And you want to know something? That's going to end in a couple years when the new consoles roll out, because guess what happens when the new consoles roll out? That number of consoles that sold is reverted back to 0 across everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if Sony is the one that is not offering crossplay and Microsoft is the one offering crossplay, and they are both like starting from 0 again, guess who's got a leg up? Microsoft.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah, Sony does have its exclusives, and they have a lot of fantastic single player experiences. I'll give that to them. That's one of the reasons. That's a huge reason why I prefer PlayStation over Xbox. But that being said, multiplayer is the majority of how people play games now, and that's a huge factor for the majority of people. And for the majority of people, when they see that they can cross-play on one platform but not on another, that's going to get Sony to rethink their position and think, maybe we should try changing our minds a little bit.
And that seems to be a growing trend, especially with like AAA developers and large game and like some of the bigger developers, is that multiplayer experiences that are easily accessible are becoming bigger. Because like Fallout 76. That's a game that's been single player for the longest time.
Yep.
And now they're trying to bring it into a multiplayer experience, but still allowing that single player experience as well.
Yep.
There was another game, Anthem, that the where you're in the robot suits and you're in the jungle.
Yep.
You can play that game completely on your own, or you can play it with your friends online.
As you described it, Iron Man in the jungle.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. But you know, a lot of these big companies are releasing these games that need online experiences to play them with your friends.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those games you wouldn't want to play that split screen. I mean, it just wouldn't look as good.
Yeah, I mean, split screen has its advantages in some departments, but a lot of games nowadays, like, it's not really as much of a benefit. Anthem being a great example. That doesn't look like a game that would work well with split screen.
So it's just like you're empowering because this is a trend that I personally feel has been happening in the gaming industry in terms of consumers. We have less time and less, I would say, money available to us. So we have to be picky about what titles and what consoles we grab. But also in terms of time, having crossplay and stuff online would greatly alleviate the money issue and the time issue, because then I can buy whatever console I personally want, despite my best friend. Like, let's say I'm a PlayStation 4 person, my best friend is an Xbox person.
Yeah.
It would, I mean, if we lived like when we were kids, on the same street, I could just go over there and play on his for a while, and or he'd come over to my house and we play on mine for a while.
Yes.
But now that as the video game fan base is now literally stretched across all age groups, I know for at least my age group that like my friends are now spread all over the city. Mm-hmm. I can't drive an hour across town to go play on their system, when if I still have my PlayStation and they had their Xbox and we could still play a game online, that would be great.
That would be fantastic. And everybody wants it. The only person who doesn't want it is Sony. They're the only ones left who are against it. And unfortunately, Sony being against it is this thing, as you said, is ruining it for everybody because they are the top dog right now. Mm-hmm. But again, in a couple years, they're not going to be the top dog anymore, because when the new consoles roll out, they're back to zero, just like Xbox is, just like Nintendo probably will be. Everybody's back to zero again.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be an even playing field until one console pulls ahead of the other.
Exactly. It's going to be an even playing field at that point. There's not going to be a top dog. And then you're gonna have Nintendo, Microsoft saying, "Well, what now, Sony? We're in favor of crossplay, and you're still not. Who do you think people are gonna choose?"
Mm-hmm.
You're not the only one who has good exclusives, you know.
and that's a completely different topic that I want to talk about in the future. But so this is what I'm thinking, and this is the big thing is that, like, we've talked about why it would be good for the consumer, why it would be good for the publishers and developers, and also I would probably say even indie developers.
Oh yeah, it would be huge for indie developers.
So, but as a console developer, Sony, who also, they do, make their own games and stuff too, but your primary drive is the consoles. What business aspect would benefit them to incorporate crossplay when they have the most units out there?
So here's what I would say. I think everybody agrees that there wouldn't be like a huge financial benefit for them to do it. It would basically be a benefit that adheres to the gamers and the developers.
And they could very easily, and in my opinion, this would be the thing that I think they would want to do, is turn it into a good PR move.
Yeah, and that's essentially what it would be. It would be essentially a good PR move, but they could also top it off. Like they could advance it past just being a PR move and say, "Hey, you know what? We changed our mind. We are in favor of crossplay now. So if you get PlayStation 4, you will be able to play with your friends who are on other platforms. In addition to that, that means you'll also get access to our critically acclaimed Sony exclusive titles that everybody loves." So, like, because that's the thing that Sony has as a leg up over all the other guys. It's like even when it comes to Nintendo, Sony has a incredible high quality lineup of exclusives. Even when compared to Nintendo, I love Nintendo and I love their exclusives. But Sony is on par with Nintendo in the exclusives department.
And in my opinion, Sony exclusives tend to favor a more adult audience, whereas Nintendo definitely favors kids.
Yeah, and plus, like there's also an appeal to both. Like, Nintendo appeals more to fans of Japanese games a little bit more so than Sony does. Sony still has a huge favoritism for Japanese style games, but Nintendo favors it a lot more. So I mean, like, what platform has the better exclusives really depends on your personal taste.
Yeah.
But in terms of quality levels of exclusives, they're both on par with each other.
And personally, I think Xbox has kind of been lacking.
No, Xbox is definitely lacking.
But that's where our E3 topic came in, that we talked about, or I think we kind of glanced over a little bit, is Microsoft has purchased a ton of indie developer studios.
Yep, and actually they
and EA, I think, bought a bunch too.
Yeah, and Microsoft, I think we talked about this too. Microsoft purchased the I can't remember the name of the developer that made that game Hellblade, which originally came out on PS4 first, and it came out on PC later, and I don't know if it's on Xbox. I don't think it is, but it was primarily a PlayStation title for a long time. But now Microsoft's got them.
But yeah, so I think Xbox definitely knows they were lacking in the exclusive department. So when this next console generation comes out, I think they're preparing for that.
Yeah, but what I definitely see Microsoft doing, I mean, I think everybody kind of sees this happening, is that Microsoft is going to be appealing a lot more to the Western audience than an Eastern audience.
And it makes sense because they're based in
that makes sense. But Microsoft has stated that they're interested in trying to take back the Japanese audience as well. It's just that unfortunately they haven't really done well at it.
And to be perfectly honest, I think it's just, I don't want to say it's like a culture shock, but Microsoft and they deal in console and PC gaming. Whereas I want to say Eastern audiences are more gravitating towards mobile and portable
they absolutely are.
Gaming experiences. And that's just not their wheelhouse.
And it's not just that either. It's also just favoriting your local corporation, because Sony's Japanese. Microsoft is not Japanese. They are American.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's also just the fact that Japanese audiences gravitate towards Sony and Nintendo just because they're Japanese companies.
Yeah.
Microsoft is not a Japanese company.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of it. Like, American gamers lean more towards more Western driven platforms. Japan's the exact opposite. They gravitate towards their own culture, which is fine. It's a cultural thing.
And it's just those companies have been firmly cemented in that area for a much longer time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what's going to happen is, I honestly think at some point Sony will change their tune when it comes to crossplay.
I get the feeling that consumer demand is eventually going to force that choice, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
Much in the way that a lot of other things have affected a company's decision, just because it shoots their PR and public opinion in the foot so bad. Because we saw that with what was it, the Star Wars Battlefront, or
they removed the microtransactions temporarily because there was a huge backlash.
Yeah, so I mean, if something bad happens in the game market, the fans will let you know.
Yep.
And people and that's the one thing that drives me nuts sometimes, is that there have been forums and posts, and there's all sorts of video content now that people are putting out their messages of what they want from their games for the longest time.
Yep, and it's not just gamers; it's also developers, because as we talked about earlier, developers also want crossplay.
Yeah, but it feels like sometimes, despite all of this information being out there, put out for free, because fans care about the games they play, it falls on deaf ears sometimes.
Yep, because these companies just they have a hard time listening for some reason. But
and I don't want to say one way or another, and it may be that investors in boardrooms and they are completely separated from the gaming market, and they have their own thing that they're doing because they're running a business, and there could be a whole slew of reasons of why XYZ thing happens. And I don't know what those reasons are, but it just...
Yeah, we're not investors, so...
But it just irks me that it seems like it'd be such a simple concept to listen to the fan base.
Yep. Because there's so many different developers that do listen to the fan base, and they benefit greatly from it.
Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite ones that has, they've been kind of hit and miss with me before, but lately, Blizzard has really, really won me over.
Blizzard is
back in their corner again.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say Blizzard, because Blizzard is well known for being a company that listens to their community.
Mm-hmm. And Overwatch is a shining example of that community, because they're trying to appeal to the people playing the game, but the Mercy Witch emote, where the voice line that she had, where originally says she would say something like heroes never die.
Yeah.
But then in the Halloween event where they had the Witch Mercy, she had a different voice line.
Really?
But they didn't release that voice line as something that the players could unlock. And so everybody was just like, please let that be an alternate voice line for the Witch Mercy costume. And that started a whole trend now to where there's tons of costumes with alternate voice lines, and in a very short period of time, Kaplan was able to get the Overwatch guys all right, it's unlocked for y'all. Y'all can unlock that now.
Yep.
And it's just that simple little things like that mean the world to your fans.
Yeah, like that means a lot to your fans, and Blizzard's been really good at it. The only occasion I can really think of where they did listen to their fans, but they didn't deliver on it was when everybody was asking for Terry Crews to be the voice of Doomfist.
Yeah,
but I understand why they decided not to deliver on that. They had a specific vision for Doomfist, and Teddy Crews just couldn't deliver on that vision.
And to be perfectly honest, though, they did do the PR stunt, kind of the April Fool's kind of thing, where he was at Blizzard Studios.
Yes.
And they turned it into an advertisement campaign, so that was still brilliant marketing.
Yep.
And there was one other example that I wanted to bring up of just catering to your fans and fan service. Ridley in Smash Brothers.
Yes. Nintendo won over a lot of people with that move. Even though I still have mixed feelings about including Ridley in that game, because I said in the E3 podcast that I was part of the camp of people who thought Ridley was too big. But I understand why Nintendo did it, because it was a fan service move.
Yep.
You know, it was the most requested character, which now that Ridley's included in the game, the biggest requested fan service game has to be replaced with somebody, and now it's Waluigi.
Yeah.
So
it's always, and that brings up my next counterpoint is like, when do you need to draw that line as a developer where the integrity of your game is now just kind of like shot? Because like if you have a more serious game and then you start introducing all these ridiculous things, then it doesn't really work.
I don't know if you saw this, but did you see that some modder added Waluigi to Dragon Ball Fighter Z?
Oh yeah.
And he the reason why he did it was to show Nintendo that they can make Waluigi work in a fighting game. So it was just kind of like, see, he works.
Yeah. And Waluigi has a huge following fan base. I know Wade, that's one of his favorite Nintendo characters, even though he hasn't been in like a mainstream game like ever.
Yeah, he's
mainly only in the side games.
Yeah, he's only just in the little Mario Sports and Mario Party games. But
getting back to crossplay, it would be a big PR move for them if they not only said, okay, we'll do it, but we'll also one up it.
Yeah,
and add like either the exclusive thing or incorporate it with their Sony or the PlayStation Plus or something like that.
Yeah, because the crossplay is something that everybody wants, including developers and gamers. Like, just be like being restrictive like that and saying no. Like, all that's going to do is make people despise you.
And that's the thing, is they've said no without giving a reason.
Yeah. And I mean, a former executive of Sony came out, and he was the one who said, like, the reason why Sony is doing this is because of money. They just don't want people buying something through a game on PlayStation and using it on Xbox. And he even concluded that statement saying, simple as that, it's a really dumb reason, but there it is. Which, yeah, even a previous Sony executive just outright said, yeah, it's a dumb decision, but that's the reason.
And so at that point, yeah, it's out of their hands.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that at some point, though, Sony will change their tune, because that doesn't have, if anything that's going to act against them in terms of PR, it's not going to be a reason to buy a PlayStation at that point.
And here's the thing for me, as an investor, they care about the company's bottom line, and that would pretty much be it, because you don't make the day-to-day decisions. As an investor, you just get dividends or kickbacks, or however they make their money selling stocks and that kind of thing. So the company cares about its face and turning over product and that kind of stuff. So it may be that their investors just, if people have that option, they may lose money until they're saying no.
Possibly.
And I get that, because they aren't looking at the big picture of,
because a lot of investors don't really know what gaming is all about.
Yeah. And if now that they're saying no, they may lose consoles in the next generation, and when their bottom line starts dropping, then they're very quickly going to become on board. But I don't want it to come to that where it's a money decision. I want it to be a
PR decision,
a care for your community decision.
Yeah, unfortunately, the majority of any market industry, that's how it generally works. Is that investors think that that's the right decision because it's a financial decision. But once they start to see how bad of a PR move it was and it starts actually affecting their financials, that's when they pay attention and go, oh, wait, let's retract. Go the other way. Now, they tend to react more than think ahead because they don't understand what the true these investors don't know what gaming's about. They don't know what gamers actually are. What they do know is that the PlayStation 4 is selling bonkers, and they want to have that money.
Yeah, I will say that with a caveat. This isn't a blanket thing for all investors. If you are invested in a gaming company, you may or may not be involved in the community.
Yeah, no, that's I'm not saying I'm not at all saying that that's like the general mindset of every investor. I'm just saying that investors tend to be like that because investors are most investors. Okay, I'm not saying all of them, but most of them are investing in a company for one reason only, and that is to make a profit.
Yeah, because they're just looking at their portfolio and their gains and losses.
Exactly. They see that something is selling extremely well, and they want a piece of that pie. It's that simple. So, and then when they see a decision that they think might hinder their financials, they say no. Because they don't truly understand.
So, I want to go ahead and let's steer this conversation in a slightly different direction. We know what immediate benefits to doing crossplay for Nintendo and Microsoft would yield, but what would be some potential drawbacks for them actually doing that?
Drawbacks for crossplay, you mean?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question because I personally don't really know of any drawbacks that there might be.
Well, it's kind of playing off of what we talked back before. Is if we think about it as Sony is the top dog, which would mean Microsoft and Nintendo have smaller, a smaller number of people in their communities. So by opening crossplay, there's the potential for either those to blend together or potentially dilute each other to where then they're not getting as much because let's say Nintendo, the Switch is not as powerful as an Xbox or a PlayStation console.
Sure.
So somebody that has a big 4K TV that they play all their games on, they would probably go with an Xbox.
Right. They would want to get they would want to get with the better looking version. I mean, same thing with me. Whenever I play Skyrim, I tend to play it on either PS4 or PC. Even though I have the Switch version, I don't really play the Switch version because it doesn't look as good as the other two versions.
And so that's one thing that for Nintendo, I could see a downside, but also the fact that their system is portable for people that are able to play it on the go or go down to a little cafe, an internet cafe and get their Switch there. They can still play with their friends while they're out and about or doing, relaxing somewhere other than their house because some people might not have, their household might not be the best place to play video games.
And that's what I always tell people about the Switch is because I see people all the time who say, the Switch is so underpowered. Why in the world would you buy such an underpowered system? It's the power of the Switch is not the selling point of the Switch in any way. People are not buying the Switch to play graphically intense games. There's already other platforms available for that through PlayStation, Xbox, and PC.
Yep.
That's not the selling point of the Switch. The selling point of the Switch is, you're getting a downgraded version of the game because it's a mobile chipset. It's going to be weaker because it's a mobile system. The selling point is you're playing these games on the go. Yet, are they downgraded versions of the games? Yes, but they are portable. That is the selling point.
Because one of my good friends that I talk to on occasion is they have to travel a lot for their job. So they're maybe at their house, maybe I would say 2 months out of the year.
Yes.
Because they're traveling all over the place. Trying to pack in baggage an Xbox or a PlayStation to bring with you from hotel to hotel.
Yeah.
Just would not work. It would eat up a lot of your luggage room.
And for things like that, the Nintendo Switch is a really good option.
And you can carry on the Switch and you can put it in airplane mode and play it on the plane while you're traveling. It fits a different lifestyle.
Exactly. And I've seen it's funny. I've seen people counteract that, like, well, you can just get a gaming laptop. I'm like, let's do a real world comparison. I want to play Doom on the Switch on the go. What do I need? I need the Switch. It's like a very small device. That's all you need. And you can play Doom on the Switch for a few hours. What do you need to play Doom on a gaming laptop to have a portable version of the PC version? You need the laptop. You need a power supply because it's not going to stay on longer than maybe an hour. And you're also going to need to probably bring a controller or a keyboard and mouse to plug into it. Like, there you go. There's portable Doom.
Because those little airplane trays are not big enough for all that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I like Review Tech USA approached that in one of his videos too. He's like, if you think that this is more convenient than this, and he holds up the Switch and he's just like, you're an idiot. So let's get back then. What would, as a more direct competitor to Sony, what does Xbox stand to lose by going into crossplay? So I didn't really think about what they would tend to lose. I mean, I can see them losing this, which is one of the big selling points of Xbox is the fact that Xbox Live actually does have a bigger user base, because even though the PlayStation 4 has sold more units, that doesn't mean it has as many online subscribers as Xbox does. I actually did some research online and I looked at the numbers. Even though there's more than 80 million PS4s sold, only 34 million people who own a PS4 are subscribed to PS Plus.
Me personally, I'm not subscribed to PlayStation Plus.
Exactly. So out of those 80 million, not even half of those users are subscribed to PS Plus. Whereas on Xbox One, even though there are a lot fewer consoles sold, Xbox Live has 60 million subscribers that are paying for Xbox Live.
Is that simply indicative of what their online services offer?
Well, because Xbox Live is offered not just on Xbox One, it's also offered on PC. So PC players can also play with Xbox One players on the same network. So
and that makes sense for Microsoft.
So I mean, the whole benefit for Microsoft is when you're keeping the services separate is if you buy a game on Xbox instead of PlayStation, you are playing with almost twice as many people online.
Okay. That makes sense.
So if everybody goes crossplay and everybody's on board with it and it becomes the standard, Microsoft would basically lose that advantage. So that's the one advantage I can see.
Yeah, but to be perfectly honest, from what we saw at E3 and some of the other things that we've seen, it looks like Xbox is about to freaking shove a battery up the butt of their online service, because I mean they're not only increasing the speeds of their service, they're going to allow you to download the game. So even if your internet is out, you can still play the game, as opposed to PlayStation streaming the game.
Yeah, which that's another podcast we're going to be doing.
And then also they're incorporating to where you can pre-download, or I think it was pre-download, and play like their new games that are launched on that service the day that it goes live.
Okay, so actually everybody's doing that now, and actually the Nintendo Switch is doing that now too.
Really? Okay.
Yes, because actually the Switch is actually quite amazing. The Switch is probably preloading their games earlier than anybody else I've ever seen. Like I bought a digital copy of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate on the Switch, and I ended up pre-ordering a digital copy. Okay, cool. Now with most games, they usually preload about like 5 days, maybe a week before the game's release. This game does not come out for more than a month, and I already have this game preloaded on my Switch.
Okay.
I was just like, wait a minute. This game is more than a month away, and you're already preloading it on my console? What the hell? Like, I have never seen a game come out on PS4 or Xbox One that is preloaded that early.
Like, usually I see maybe a week.
Yeah. But no, on the Switch, I preloaded a game more than a month in advance. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. Like, how did they do that? Like, how did they do that? That's incredible.
Okay.
So, I mean, Octopath Traveler I bought, and I preloaded that a week before it came out, which is normal, but still, like, the Monster Hunter Generations example that I gave, like, that blew me away. The fact that I was able to preload that more than a month in advance, like, I was blown away by that.
So it kind of sounds like Xbox kind of announced what they were doing, and then everybody was like, okay, we got to kind of match it.
Yeah. Well, no, like, that's what everybody's trying to do, is that, like, even with Nintendo's Switch Online program, they're trying to match what PlayStation and Xbox are doing.
And they have to as competitors.
Yeah, because, like, for example, they're offering the cloud save. They're also offering, like, exclusive discounts if you're a subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
They're offering, like, free games every month.
Yeah.
So, but what Nintendo's doing is that they're doing free retro games.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
which
with additional
they
features.
have a bigger database of those available.
Yep, and plus, a lot of people who buy Nintendo systems are really interested in the retro games. So
yeah, that's what they built their empire upon.
Yep. So I do like that idea that, like, oh, if you're a subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online, you get new retro games every single month. I'm like, I'm down for that. And they get online functionality added in. Heck yeah. $20.
Mm-hmm.
Take my money. $20 for 1 year. Take it. I'm in.
It's not a bad price either.
It's not a bad price, and plus you get to play online. You get the cloud storage, and plus that family plan, dude. That family plan. I'm sorry, like, why would you not get the family plan if you have friends who all have Switches?
Yeah.
Like, why would you not do that? You know, it's just it's so obvious. I mean, if you have even one friend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I are going to be doing the family plan on Nintendo Switch when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it's not much that we're saving money, but you and I are still each saving about $3. If we get another friend on board with our family plan with us,
the saving grows.
The saving grows for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, why would you not go with that option? You know, and you get so much for it.
So now I want to touch on one last little thing before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Is incorporating crossplay will further dilute the exclusivity of the consoles, because we have seen it in multiple generations that consoles are turning not into just purely gaming consoles like the SNES and N64 and the original PlayStation 1 and Xbox. They are turning more into multi-entertainment systems, because I can watch DVDs and movies, and you know, VR, I think, can now be interacted with consoles and stuff too. So it's just consoles are becoming more robust and multifunctional than ever.
Yes.
But it also feels like they're kind of losing the distinction of what they were originally made for. And it's cool having one system that can do so many things, but if this trend keeps going and crossover is only going to make it worse, it's pretty much going to boil down to pick your favorite company's color: green, red, or blue.
Well, I don't think it's just going to be that. I think in my opinion, this is my opinion. The reason you buy whenever all the new consoles come out and you're deciding which one you want, in my opinion, the decision is based on one thing: what exclusives do they have? And I know that there's this. I know that it's a really unpopular opinion that exclusives sell games, but no, it's true. Exclusives do sell games.
I bought a Switch for Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I bought a PlayStation 4 so I could play Bloodborne and a lot of other Japanese RPG games. I mean, that's the reason why I bought a PS4. And plus the new Uncharted game. It's just like, I don't own an Xbox One because why would I? What games does it have that I'm interested in? It doesn't have any. So it's like, why would I buy an Xbox if it does? Now, you know, if like that new Halo Infinite game comes out and it blows everybody away and I'm like, I miss Halo. And I just decide, you know what? I'll buy an Xbox. I miss Halo. You know, it's just that exclusive sell games. It's that simple.
And that's kind of the direction I feel like that's going to be the only differentiating feature between consoles.
Yeah. And I honestly, in my opinion, I'm fine with that. And I don't understand why people would be against that.
Because, well, it's just the thing for, I think for the console developers is that puts them in a really scary situation, because the entire fate of their console is then determined by third-party developers that are making the exclusives for their games.
Right. And also they're exclusive first-party developers.
Yeah.
You know, and Yeah, and some of those exclusives are third party. I know Sony.
And more of them are becoming that way.
Yeah, because I know Sony paid a lot of money to ensure that Persona 5 stayed exclusive to PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Made sure that it would not go anywhere else, which it kind of sucks, really. Like, that game seems like it would be such a wonderful fit on the Switch, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I that, in my opinion, I think is the way it should be. I think that games are supposed to be the selling point for consoles.
Mm-hmm.
If you see a game that you really like and you really want to play, you need to own the specific console that it's on. And in my opinion, I think that's how it should be. I mean, I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I think that it's a good idea because there's always going to be third-party games that are available on all platforms.
Yeah.
Those are always going to exist. That's the majority of games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for those games, it makes sense for crossplay to be a primary feature to make sure that everybody can play together. But for the consoles to sell themselves, the exclusive should be the de facto deciding factor.
Yeah, it's going to be their online market, and if crossplay just makes it even easier to promote their online market for whatever system you do have. And then also any like combos or specials that you do.
Combos. Oh, you mean like sales?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because like I think Nintendo bundled Mario Odyssey and the Switch around the holidays.
Yeah, they did.
I'm sure because of that moved a lot of copies.
Oh yeah, it absolutely did. And plus, you know, it could also be the online service that they offer, like you said. I mean, Nintendo Switch Online is going to be $20 a year, and it gives you a lot of the same features that the other guys give. The only exception is the free games are retro games.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only difference. Which,
for me, I'm a retro gamer. I would probably gravitate to that.
Oh yeah, no, I love playing retro games, and the fact that it's not just the fact that they're giving you free retro games every month. They're adding online functionality to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, I can play Super Mario Brothers 3 with Jared online for free as long as I'm subscribing through this membership. Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a great time. I love that game. So, I mean, I and you know what? That's also kind of like an appeal. You know, it's like if retro games don't appeal to you and you want stuff that's more modern, that's where something like PlayStation would come in, where they do offer you more modern games for free each month. So it's kind of like that universal appeal. It's like, but then again, on the Nintendo side, it's like not only do you get the retro games for free each month, but it's also a lot cheaper than the other services. Mm. And there's a family plan available.
And that's the thing, is that a lot of them are going to have to bundle and package their stuff to appeal to their market that they're aiming for.
And you know what? Like, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to touch on this just real quick, because I know like the popular opinion when it comes to the Switch Online right now is that it's not a good service. It's just attractive because it's cheap. A lot of people think that it's not a very good service. In my opinion, I like what I'm seeing. $20 a year or $35 for 8 people, and you get free retro games with online functionality every month, which I love. I love retro games. You get the cloud storage, you get the online play, you get the discounts, and it's stupid cheap. I think that's a good service. I'm sorry, but I find that appealing.
It may be a little bit bare bones compared to some of the other ones.
Sure.
But if that's all you need, then why pay extra for things you're not going to use?
And plus, think about it this way. If the only thing you're looking for is to play games online, you don't care about any of the other fluff. All you want to do is play games online. PlayStation, $60. Xbox, $60. Nintendo Switch, $20.
Yep.
Just saying, it's
just
cheaper.
Financially, it makes sense.
Financially, it just makes sense. And I mean, really, the only criticism that I can really give it is that, yeah, they're not giving you modern games, they're giving you retro games. But if you're a person who loves retro games like myself, and you also love retro games, that is actually kind of an appealing thing.
Yep.
You know,
and like I said, and that's them appealing to their certain market.
Yeah, and the market and Nintendo's market is people who love retro games.
So to be perfectly honest, what I have a feeling we'll end up seeing is that the online services that these companies are going to offer, there's going to be different grades of subscription levels.
Yeah, which I was saying this before, like I really want Sony to come out with a family plan much like the Switch, because I mean, think about it, like even if what I would like to see is PlayStation say, hey, you can still do $60 for 1 year like always, but now we're offering the option of you can pay $90 for a full year for 3 different accounts, which $90 sounds like a big price tag, but think about it. You divide that between 3 people, that's $30 a person.
Mm-hmm.
That's half the price per person. Like, I would love to see Sony come out and do that. It'd be awesome. I'm totally on board with that. But
is there anything else that you wanted to cover?
As far as the crossplay thing goes, I think we pretty much talked about everything.
Okay. So thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. If you have any thoughts or opinions on crossplay, let us know down in the comments below, and we'll definitely respond to y'all, and we can continue this conversation.
Yeah, and you know what? If you disagree with the stuff that we said, we want to hear about it. We love having these discussions. I mean, if you disagree with us, we want to hear why you disagree with us, and we love that. That's the whole reason behind podcasts, is to have discussions. So if you have something to say it. Don't be afraid to say it.
Yep.
I'm totally open to somebody disagreeing with me and telling me why I sound like an idiot for the things that I'm saying. So
it's just be warned, you may end up getting an explosion in text form.
As I tend to do.
But thank you for joining us. See y'all next time. Bumblure and Addison, Nosidda.
Yep.
Nosison.
We're signing off, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast. Addidan. Addidan signing off.
Later. Bye-bye.